Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Taurus for August 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, check out my blog, and if you would love to learn astrology and have a visceral experience of aligning your rhythms with the planetary rhythms, then maybe you will love my astrology apprenticeship program. It's good for your own self-development and if you'd like to do it professionally. So what's going on in this month of August? We have major eclipses coming that will no doubt transform many people's lives in very big ways. So we're going to talk about those as the focus of our reading today. I promised that we would get into where, for your early, middle, and late degree placements, these eclipses would be hitting, and that's what we're going to focus on. Then we'll talk about the general implications of the Leo Aquarius eclipse cycle, and then other transits that you will no doubt be experiencing manifestations from. So we'll talk about all of it. So putting this in perspective, we are in the midst of a Leo Aquarius eclipse cycle. This eclipse cycle started at the beginning of 2017 and it runs well into 2019. The last time we experienced this eclipse cycle was between 2008 and 2009. When I talked about this last month, I had a number of people comment and ask, did I think that there was going to be a financial market crash, a major crisis, like we experienced in 2008? And my answer is no, I don't think that, even though obviously there are lots of corrections to be made and we're in an ongoing process, I think that a lot of that major boom, bust, whatever happened there, things blowing up, came from Pluto, the atomic bomb, moving into the sign of Capricorn. Pluto moving into a different sign, or any outer planet moving into a different sign, brings a very profound, notable experience with it to our global experience. So I think that the market crash had a lot more to do with Pluto moving into Capricorn than this actual eclipse cycle. However, the eclipse cycle is still relevant because a lot of questions that were brought up from that experience, including the restructuring of large organizations, and also people abiding by societal norms, like people saying you should invest your money here, you should do this certain way, people doing what they were supposed to do and then winding up losing from it, making them ask different questions about how they could follow and maybe should follow their own passions and individual sparks and interests and hunches even, rather than staying too much into the mainstream. So this story of the eclipse, Leo Aquarius polarity definitely has some stories that have started then that are relevant, that will be continuing now, but short of minor market corrections that are always necessary and happening. I wasn't saying that I think that that's going to happen again in this period of time. Okay, so the lunar eclipses bring completion, fruition, something coming to a conclusion. And for all early, middle, and late degree Taurus placements, this is occurring in the 10th house. The 10th house has to do with your career, your work, your job. It also has to do with authority figures and your relationship with father figures, and authority figures in general. So many Taurus people with Taurus placements are going to have an ending come to their job. It may be voluntary. You may decide, I'm going to do something else, and you leave that line of work, or you leave that division of business, or some chapter closing with your job or your work or how you do your work. There also could be some falling out or something that happens with father. Father could need attention. There could be something going on with him. Or there could be an ending of a conflict with your dad. So something ends, closes, comes to fruition. And sometimes there has to be the crisis before there can be the breakthrough. So something notable going on with father. And that's for all placements. The solar eclipse energy is, depending on your placement, is going to show up in a different house. So early degree placements will have this new energy coming in the 5th house. But all of the middle and late degree placements, and even some of the early degree placements, are likely to experience the solar eclipse energy in the 4th house. So let's talk about what that looks like. Solar eclipses bring new openings in triplicate. So this solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse was on August 7th. That's at 15 degrees of Aquarius, closing out, ending chapters. Usually with drama, usually with stress. Sometimes there's happy fruition, but often it would be bittersweet. It's emotional. The new moon energy brings a new opening, a new opportunity. Sometimes it brings 3 separate opportunities, or one big opportunity that takes the weight of three things. And the same thing with the closings. There could be three events that occur as far as the drama or the closing with the work thing or the father situation, or it could be one big profound experience, but in any case, a full moon is, or a lunar eclipse is a full moon in triplicate. That's the energy of it. And a solar eclipse is a new moon in triplicate. So just major openings. The early degree placements will likely experience some of that new opening in the 5th house, which is actually the house of Leo. So not only will be the sign of Leo, will also be the house of Leo, which puts in a massive amount of emphasis on the energy of Leo, which has to do with children. So anything from conception to pregnancy, childbirth, child rearing, issues with children, relationships with children, your own or others, relationship with your own childlike sense of wonder, creative projects from conception through bringing out and through managing, also athleticism, directing, acting, modeling, things where you're in the limelight and people are looking at you, are all Leo-based energies. Also fun and games and hobbies, and the 5th house is also the house of true love. So many people are going to have a true love come into their lives, or if you have that person with you already, you can enter a new dimension of that relationship. One caution here is that if someone new does come in your life in August, and you don't know them from the past, you've never met them before, remember that August is also going to have Mercury being retrograde, so you really need to wait till the end of September before you start to make decisions about this new energy that came in, because it could be a stepping stone to something else and not the permanent thing. But it's going to be harder to tell that in August because it's still pretty, things are pretty cloaked still in retrograde energy. So it's good to kind of feel into that to see if this is like a long-term thing or a stepping stone. So for the rest of you, and really most Taurus placements, will experience this new opening of energy in home and family. There are many different ways this can look. Some people will buy a new piece of real estate, either to live in or just as a real estate venture. Some people will buy a second home, or a third home for that matter, something additional as far as housing. Some people will have a new occupant to their family or to their household. Someone moves in, someone is born, a pregnancy occurs, someone marries into the family. Some people could have a random person move in with them that becomes like family. Or you could just move your house. Many people, many Taurus placements are actually going to move, buy a new home and move. And this change in housing could actually come from the ending of the job. There could be a relationship between the job ends, now we're going to move to a different place because of whatever, association the job had, either to the financial circumstance of the current housing or because of the geographic situation. There could also be major psychological insights and breakthroughs that occur because the 4th house has to do with our childhood space, what we were, impressed with psychologically as children, that tends to echo out into our adulthood. So having major psychological breakthroughs, major improvements in home and family dynamics can occur from this solar eclipse opening. So those are the things that are most on my mind for the Taurus placements. Now I want to talk about more eclipse implications as far as the Leo-Aquarius polarity, and also some other transits that you'll definitely be feeling. So the eclipses definitely dominate the astrological scene for August for all signs, but there are other aspects that I want to talk about that will affect you as well, and this will affect all signs. Right from the beginning, we've got Jupiter in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. This is the 3rd time that this has happened. The first time was November 24th of 2016. The second pass was March 30th of 2017. And here on August 4th, we have the final chapter. So this has been an ongoing saga having to do with the challenges of connecting with people in order to bring about something into the world. Jupiter in Libra has to do with relationships. Pluto in Capricorn has to do with business and things in the outer view, the public eye. And a square is a conflicted angle. So that means there's something to push through in order to get to the outcome. So the impetus lies in the aspect and also the blocks, so that's what brings the frustration, is that there's this pressure to join together and get something out into the world. But then the blocks and the challenges are also wrapped up in the transit. So there should be some resolution, some final conclusion here. One of the pieces is going to have to do with competition. You know, whenever we subscribe to the third dimensional belief in competition, there always creates this hamster wheel angst that you never really get out of. But one of my favorite teachers, Florence Scovel Shinn, always says, or said, as I read her work, she's passed now a long time ago, there's no competition on the spiritual planes. And that's true. Infinite Spirit has a purpose for us that only we can fill. And you can take marketing data into consideration, you know, you can take third dimensional realities into consideration. But ultimately, what you do in this world has to do with you and Infinite Spirit and your purpose. So the more you can ease into that higher vibrational view of this, whatever you're merging together to do to bring out into the world, you're going to have a much better experience and much better outcomes. So even though I give you the dates of these transits, remember that you can always have the possibility to feel the energies in a manifestation before or after that date. Okay, so don't hang your hat too heavily on the dates that I give you. So, also important to note that I am giving you information about specific transits, as I always do, but you can get a more detailed write-up of the general transits that affect everyone when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. I send out a month early a written version of the summary of the energy of the month ahead, along with some highlights. If you have signed up for my newsletter already and you're not getting it, I send it out every month early, like clockwork, usually a month early. So if you're not getting it, it's probably going into social promotions, events folder or something like that. So check in there, spam, check in there and move it back into your inbox so that you can get them in a timely basis. Okay, so we talked about the eclipses at length as far as the individual effects for the signs, but we do have general effects for the eclipses as well. The first one is on August 7th. It's a full moon lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Aquarius. We're moving along this continuum that started at the beginning of 2017 that has to do with a reshuffling of energy in the arenas of large organizations, humanitarian efforts, internet-based projects, teams, groups, friendships, circles, you know, whatever kind of circles you find yourself in. That's all Aquarius. So some sort of reshuffling of energy. Some people will be focusing more in those realms, and some people will be focusing more on their own individual desires against the societal norms, which we'll talk about when we get over to the solar eclipse for later in the month. But this lunar eclipse is coming packing a lot of punch because the event also opposes Mars, which increases the likelihood of some sort of conflicted ending or a conflicted completion. Full moon eclipses tend to bring lots of drama, lots of emotion, and some sort of culmination, you know, an ending or something coming to fruition. But with that aspect with Mars, it could be a conflicted ending. There's also a simultaneous nice aspect with Saturn that could bring very positive and strong foundation for present and future security. And there's an additional trine with Jupiter. Anything having to do with a wonderful aspect with Jupiter always is going to bring more enthusiasm, more hope, more faith, and expanded outcomes. So we've got some sweet aspects on the 10th and 11th and 12th. Then on the 12th and 13th, depending on which time zone you're in, Mercury is going to go into retrograde, and that will be at 11 degrees of Virgo. Mercury goes retrograde 3 or 4 times a year. So we really spend half of our lives in one part of the retrograde transit, either the shadow period that occurs before or the shadow period that occurs after or the actual retrograde. You can look at my video called Mercury Retrograde if you do a search for Annie Botticelli, Mercury Retrograde. I talk about the do's and don'ts and the understandings that it's important to carry. But basically, a lot of pressure is put on weak links that already exist with communication devices, mobility, transportation devices. So any weak links that are there are going to be turned up, you know, so old things that were swept under the rug as far as communication often just blow right out to be dealt with. And often things, people, ideas from the past roll in now for reconsideration. It's not always the best time to make the long-term decision if you can help it. So even though these eclipses and retrograde are going to bring some things right into the forefront, if you can wait until later into September, like at least mid to end September to really commit to a longer term situation, that would be better because you're not going to have all the information. Okay, so we've got a nice aspect with the Sun and Saturn on August 13th, that where your desires receive enthusiastic support. The 15th, we've got, and actually there's another aspect with Venus on the 24th. So there are two challenging aspects with Venus this month, the 15th and the 24th, that are going to bring, some tension, either with self-esteem, aesthetics, appearance, romance, your relationships in general of any kind, or money. So there's pressure put on Venus this month, and you'll see that come up in little or big ways. Then we have a nice aspect on August 20th with the Sun trining Uranus. So sometimes sudden insights and exhilarating awarenesses or experiences could come in with that. On the 21st, we've got this very powerful new moon solar eclipse at almost 29 degrees of Leo. So this is the second new moon in Leo that we have, which adds a lot of power. Also, new moon solar eclipses are like new openings in triplicate. Just as full moons are closings, endings, drama, conclusions, 3 times as powerful as a regular full moon, the new moon eclipses have the opening energies and the new energies 3 times that of a regular new moon. And this is a beautiful new moon. We've got a beautiful aspect with Uranus, which brings, more surprises, happy surprises. Then we have a beautiful aspect with Saturn, which brings, again, this long-term stable factor, which seems to be a theme this month, like certain things starting to click in for future security. And so when you have a solar eclipse, it's an opening. And when you have a solar eclipse in Leo, it has to do with openings in creativity. So anything having to do with children. But for some people, their creative projects are their children. So whether you're conceiving a child or conceiving a creative idea, that process of conception to pregnancy to birth to child or project rearing is all dominated by Leo. So there's going to be lots of new openings there. And for people who already have children, new experiences and, dimensions of parenting. There's also energy associated with athleticism, acting, modeling, directing, fun hobbies, true love. Many, many, many people are going to enter new dimensions of romance with this aspect, which is really exciting. So we've got that on the 21st, and on the 22nd, we have Mars in Leo trining Saturn and Sag. And again, this is a nice boost where action and outcomes blend beautifully. We've got a nice aspect on August 23rd to the 24th with Venus and Chiron, which shows that when we do emotional inner work, in those places where we're wounded, it brings positive gains. On the 24th, so simultaneously with this nice aspect with Chiron, we have a square with Uranus. I alluded to this earlier when I talked about the difficult aspect with Venus on the 15th. When Venus squares Uranus, the bringer of change in a feisty expression in Aries, makes an uncomfortable angle to love, money, and aesthetics. So there's many ways that can look, So definitely having the Venus in Cancer is going to promise emotional jostling from this unpredictable Uranus energy. August 25th, Saturn goes direct at 21 degrees of Sag. This officially ends the break that we've had as Saturn was in retrograde. Saturn is a chop buster. That's what I always call Saturn. Saturn wants discipline. It's a taskmaster, and it wants organization, and it wants hard work. And that type of energy doesn't blend well with Sagittarius, the sign that it's in, because Sag is all about free flowing and, not being consistent, and all the things that we love about Sagittarius don't mix well with the energy of Saturn. So we've had a break from Saturn kind of forcing us to take these big Sag ideals and dreams and do the hard work, consistent work for bringing those dreams down into the 3rd dimension. We've had a little break from that, but now the break is over. So for the rest of the year, we're going to have to get our nose back to the grindstone and take the daily steps to bringing the dreams into fruition. So when Saturn moves through Sag, it's also a serious faith tester, so we've got the rest of the year for Saturn to sort of weigh heavy on faith, but the more you can stay connected to faith throughout this Saturn transit, the better it will be. And then we end off with a nice aspect with the Sun and Mercury, but that can also mean some powerful criticism, you know, the same aspects that can be something positive, like some bright news, you know, when the Sun and Mercury join together, they enhance each other's qualities. There could be some powerful news that comes in, but Virgo is also really critical. So there could be some harsh criticism that comes in too. So just keep your head up with that. So if you would love to have astrology, to learn astrology in a visceral way, a way that helps you to blend more naturally with the planetary rhythms, then maybe you'll love to take my astrology apprenticeship program. You can see more about it on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Click on work with me. Whether you want to use astrology for your own personal developments or to help your friends and family and yourself to understand karmic patterns, understand what your highest expression is in this lifetime and how you overcome the karmic patterns to step into that. Even if you want to do it professionally, then check out my astrology apprenticeship program. If you'd like to be a coach, a wellness coach, a business coach, a spiritual coach of any kind, helping people to reach their goals, then maybe you will love my coach course, which is also enrolling. And that's also combined with my online business course so that you can help create a presence online and develop your coaching business for an online basis. So check that out, anniehelpsyou.com. Also check out my husband, B.R. Newman's new tarot reports for each sign. You can look him up, B.R. Newman, Neumann. IamHelios.com is his website. So you can see what he says about your sign as far as the tarot report, and then that supplements what I've just shared with you. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.